There's a certain charm to the original 1.0 heroes. They were packed full of character, packed full of creative and interesting weapons, and it was the start of something really special. But can these amazing Hero Factory sets be built better? In today's video, let's take a look at some revamps of the original 6 Hero Factory heroes. And we'll see if these custom creations truly are better than the originals. Kicking us off is Wendigo, and they have revamped the amazing Surge. The idea of turning Surge into the Flash from DC Comics, that's kinda awesome. Cause my boy Surge, he's known for his iconic lightning weapon. His 1.0 form had that, and I guess it was a bit of a staple across many different versions of the character. So yeah, extending that lightning concept a little bit more and having it flow across his entire body, it just seems fitting. And it looks pretty dope. I love this shot right here where he's running. You get the sense that he's been designed for speed, and the lightning bolts coming out of these engines on his back, they help enhance that speed, they give him agility, they enhance his movement. That's cool. Now, one small detail I really like. See how on these lower legs, the CCBS armor shells, they have these very small silver attachments inside the bar connections. I like that little addition. It covers up the hole on the armor quite well, and it keeps the toy looking smooth, and it keeps all the textures consistent. It's nice. But what is this little silver piece? Well, it's a bit of an older element, but these are wrist blades with some kind of Wolverine-style claws stemming out of them. These came on this Assassin minifigure. And of course, this figure came on some of the old Prince of Persia LEGO sets. A criminally underrated theme. So hey, if you've got some of these in your collection, or you don't, I reckon it's worth grabbing some and using them on your next mock. Now we turn to a true behemoth. This is Duncan Bulk, and it was reimagined by Destrunk Destroyer. I mean, his name is Bulk. It makes sense that you're gonna bulk them up with heaps of armor and plenty of heavy weaponry. It really is the perfect upgrade for Bulk. Now I especially like this torso design. The shaping here is sensational. To unpack it a little bit, break it apart, we can see the use of some of these shoulder armor pieces that came on Toa Ignika. I like how those have been used. And then just behind that, there's some of these Nuva shoulder elements. These of course were on every single Toa Nuva character. And I like how these interface with those Toa Ignika armor pieces. It's a good combination. And then these nicely match up with the armor pieces that came on Breakout Bulk. I'm glad that these stuck around as shoulder armor on this guy. That was always a really, really nice look. Plus I do always like seeing different elements taken from each version of the character and combined into one beautiful revamp. So yeah, that's good, but I also like the inclusion of this silver Borok eye that's a little bit embedded into the design. These come on a set like Rudaka. Yeah, just such an incredible use of pieces to create a very, very nice look. It's perfectly bulky, it almost looks a little bit like Iron Man armor. It's very nice. And I do quite like the little injection of orange into this mock. It's a nice touch. Yeah, the original set had some trans orange on the hero core and the eyes. But putting even more orange in, it just works. Elucia is the next builder, and they've made Stringer. So this mock uses a few modified and custom pieces. Like this helmet, for example, we never saw this appearing in any official sets. There's also some custom hand pieces with what appear to be posable fingers, and some interesting CCBS armor that wraps around both sides of the limb. So if you wanted to build this in person, you unfortunately couldn't do so because a lot of these pieces don't exist. But, I think it's still possible to recreate this in person with existing pieces. Most of the time, all of these unique elements still have some kind of real-world counterpart that could essentially accomplish the exact same thing. So still plenty of room to be inspired here. Although, I gotta say, I love the weathering and the detailing on these Hero Factory armor shells. If you wanted to paint some of your existing pieces or, put stickers on them to give them a little bit something, really try and make it match this look, well, I gotta say, that would be a really cool aesthetic. I love how it looks here. But the best part about this mock are these weapons. Stringer has some sick Wolverine-style blades stemming out of his lower arm, and he's also got these 2 shoulder-mounted turrets. I like how these use some of these shield pieces. These are the same ones that came on a bunch of the 2.0 hero sets, much like Evo. He had one in yellow. Yeah, putting them on either side, it looks dope. Maybe when you build your next hero, you could give them some shoulder-mounted turrets. It's an awesome design. Moving on over to Stormer, this was made by Nobu Terry. Now, that's the thing about these 1.0 heroes. It's so easy to upgrade them simply by placing some CCBS armor onto their limbs. Doing so allows them to actually have some elbow and knee articulation, which of course the original sets did not have. Now, okay, this mock takes that a little bit further and makes the torso and a bunch of different parts very CCBS focused. But doesn't it just look so good? There's just some exceptional detail on Stormer's torso, using some system dish pieces and even a few little white croissant pieces. Yeah, it's those tiny additions like that that do so much for a mock. These white croissant pieces, if you're curious, they come on an old Parisian restaurant modular building. They're used as decoration around the top of the windows. Also, how about these blue wrist gauntlets? So striking, especially the nice spike coming out of the edge. Stormer's never looked better. Oh yeah, and these feet. See how they place these white hero core pieces on both ends? Isn't that just a nice way to round off that design? Some nice thinking. Darkrai Master 99 has a mock called Lebel. Now, this isn't a revamp of Breeze, this is just a completely different character, but it still kind of passes as a revamp of Breeze. And hey, just because a mock isn't a revamp of a character doesn't mean you can't be inspired by it. There's some good stuff going on here. Now, I'm always a big fan of leg designs like this, where there's no feet whatsoever, they just end in a point. I always get the sense that the character can float, that these are some sort of jet engine that allows them to fly at high speeds. Or heck, maybe they could even use these spikes as weapons. I just think it's a really nice aesthetic, and it's just a little bit different, you know? Sometimes different is really refreshing. Oh, I also like this shoulder design, using some trans green dish pieces. Yeah, color-wise, that's close enough to lime green. Those 2 colors partner very nicely together. Hey, that's a good idea. You know, if you are building a mock that has lime in its color scheme, but you're running low on lime pieces, then get some trans green parts. They'll get the job done. And finally, the Mugbearer has built Ferno Marine XL. So there's actually 2 different versions of this mock. I'm going to cover both of them here, but let's start with this one. The aesthetic of this mock is interesting. It looks a bit like you're getting a blank version of Ferno, but then there's all this armor placed over the top of him. It's like some kind of power suit. It reminds me a bit of the armor that we see in the Avatar movies. It's literally just armor placed over the top of a human body. It's not like a mech suit that they climb into and then pilot from the inside. No, it's armor that enhances the body. That's kind of a sweet idea for Hero Factory. Especially since with the hero characters in the Hero Factory story, they were often upgraded for specific missions. And that's kind of a new spin on that. You know, instead of changing up their base form, they get upgrades by adding armor on top. That's cool. And I guess it makes sense, because what, do they have to rip apart and totally destroy every hero every single time they want to redo them? Is that painful for the heroes? A new mission comes along and they gotta rip off their mask, change it out for new stuff? This is probably a less painful way. Then we have an XL version, and this one has wings. So cool. It's always nice to see silver blades and swords used for wings. It's a pretty simple design, but it does look really, really good. And you know, most of the time a lot of people have a bunch of silver weapons in their Bionicle collections. So, you know, it should be fairly easy to recreate this with pieces that you have lying around. Well, it should. Everyone's collections are different, of course. I also quite enjoy this leg design. See how it's using a red Mutta torso piece? Of course, this one came on Toa Mutta Tahu. Using that for the base of a leg. That's cool. And that's that. Lots of awesome revamps and very clever takes on the original 1.0 Hero Factory heroes. Do you think these were better than the originals? Well, let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed the mocks that I showcased today, be sure to take a look at the links in the description below. You'll find links to their social media right there. Go and check out what they've made. But that's all for today, guys. Thank you for watching, happy building, and bye for now.